Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider for KSL Sports. Good to be back with you guys. I apologize that I haven't recorded until now, Friday, March 14th at 3:35 p.m. I apologize. I sincerely do, and I know I have a responsibility to you guys to fill your ears with content and discussion, and I failed, and I apologize. But plenty to get into on this episode. Going to hit on the Utah men's basketball program and all that's going on there. Obviously, Alex Jensen, Andre Miller, and then the roster construction and what's going to happen with the transfer portal and postseason opportunities. So that'll be today's episode, the bulk of today's episode. Also dive into a little bit of the Huntsman Center's future and the university's plans to create a totally new campus culture within the on school grounds. So I think that's cool. And then spring ball starts next Thursday, which is exciting. 6 days from today. Super excited about that, man. It got here quick. I swear it was just January yesterday, and now it's March 14th. Just crazy. So, lot to get into. But first, shout out to the pro Utes right now. All the guys in the league right now making bank, bro. Cody Barton just inked a 3-year deal for $21 million. That sets him up nicely. Julian Blackman on the market. I think he'll land somewhere soon. Marcus Williams was recently cut by the Baltimore Ravens. I think he'll land on his feet somewhere, hopefully with the Chargers, and we'll see what happens there. Tyler Huntley also going to be on he's on the market as well, and I think there's a good opportunity he finds a new home. So shout out to the guys in the NFL. Going through it right now. Julian Blackman, I think, will be a pretty nice pick. Marcus Williams, too. Just a number of guys still to be signed in the free agency market. So we'll keep our eyes on that. The big news for Utah football this week, unfortunately, is the news involving Dorian Singer, who is going to be at the Big 12 Pro Day. Unfortunately, it sounds like the chances for him returning next season are dead. After he was included in the Big 12 Pro Day list, I reached out to a source who basically said as much, that it's pretty much dead. So not 100% confirmed, but essentially 99% sure that that is going to be the result, that he's not going to be able to return next season. It sounds like his waiver was denied. And then, with the NCAA potentially adding just a 5th season of eligibility for student athletes, sounds like either that won't be approved in a timely manner or it won't be retroactively applied. So Utah will move forward without him. And somehow, if the football gods make it so, and he's able to return next season, they'll figure out a way to make that happen, obviously. But Utah is going to move forward with an eye on the spring portal to potentially add to that receiver room. So with Big 12 Pro Day, or with Pro Day, I should say, it's going to be a little different. Now in the Big 12, instead of a Pro Day being held at Utah, all of the athletes in the Big 12 conference are going to convene in Texas to conduct a combine-like pro day, essentially. Between March 18th and 21st, there's going to be about 200 student athletes within the Big 12 that are going to be in attendance. $15 of which will come from Utah, and that includes Van Fillinger, Tavita Fotu, Connor O'Toole, Karene Reed, Mickey Sugaturunga, Junior Tafuna, Damian Alford, Makai Bernard, Alakai Gilman, Brant Keithy, Caleb Lohner, Money Parks, Dorian Singer, Zemiah Vaughn, and JT Greep. So those are going to be the guys that will represent Utah at the Big 12 Pro Day. down in Texas. And what is surprisingly absent from that list is Cam Rising, and unfortunately, with what he's gone through the last 2 seasons, I don't know exactly what he's thinking. It's obviously been a difficult 2 years for him, with all of the injuries that he's experienced and all of that. I think there's a chance that his playing days are just over, but hope for the best for him. It's tough to see a player who just accomplished so much in his time at Utah, got them to the Big 12 championship, got them the championship win in both 2021 and 2022. He was just phenomenal both seasons, and to now be here 2 years, this is not at all what anybody saw coming for Cam, this sort of ride. And just, it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate that the injuries have cost him as much as they have. So hope for the best for Cam. Hope that he's doing well and all that. But certainly surprising to not see him on the list. So, all right, let's get to the main subject here: Utah basketball. Obviously, the program has officially hired Alex Jensen, agreeing to terms for him to become the new head coach. Super exciting. Obviously, this is the guy that everybody wanted. I'm waiting on official details of the contract, but from what I've been told and what I've been led to believe, I think it'll land somewhere between 5 and 7 years, and 24 to 26 million, which says a lot about how much people truly wanted Jensen to be the guy. That is a significant increase in terms of compensation for the coach. It's basically double the number that Craig Smith got when he was hired 4 years ago, and I think that really says a lot about the support and the resources that could be coming into the program with him at the helm. So he's going to be formally introduced at a press conference on Monday that'll be held at the John M. Huntsman Center, which will be open to the public, and I hope that fans show up. I really do. I think this is a big moment for Utah, and I hope that fans embrace it and take the opportunity to be there, to welcome the Jensens home, essentially, and to take in that moment. It's a significant one. So I hope that fans show up. That'll be at 6 p.m. at the John M. Huntsman Center, and really, again, I think this is a great opportunity, a big moment for Utah basketball and the fan base. I think it's clear that this has been a frustrating ride for the last decade or so for a variety of reasons. You can feel the apathy that has set in with the fan base and the frustration that's mounted over the years. But I truly think that this is a great opportunity for Utah in hitting the reset button. And there's just so much excitement around Jensen and what his return means to the program and what he means in the history of the program. It's significant. That's what draws all of this excitement around him, is the fact that he was part of the glory days. But the more I talk to people about Jensen that aren't necessarily worried about that history, the more it's emphasized that there should be even more excitement about the coach that he's become, that this isn't just a hire for, about nostalgia. This isn't just hiring the most popular guy, the guy that the boosters want. This is all of the above. This is a genuinely good hire, the right hire, right? Somebody that hits all the boxes, someone that can lead Utah basketball to a higher standard of basketball, of competition in the Big 12. I think there's a lot of optimism and belief in Alex Jensen, in who he's become as a coach over the years, with the proximity to the Utah Jazz and him spending a decade there. There's been a lot of people that I've talked to that have praised his development and growth as a coach. And so I think that, while it's exciting to have the guy that was part of the national title run and the success the big successful years under Majerus. Like, it's great to have that, to draw from that, but I think there should be even more excitement about the coach that is coming to coach Utah basketball. So, obviously, again, just there's a lot of excitement, and it's already been felt by the Utah ticket office. I know that there's been a significant increase in season ticket interest, and this is a story that I'm working on, so I've got some insight that I'm hoping to hold off. But when you podcast, sometimes you let some things slip. But I know that there's been essentially hundreds, a few hundred new requests for season tickets in terms of completely new requests. People that have never held season tickets, people that have never been associated with Utah tickets or Utah athletics, hundreds of those types of requests. So you can imagine what that means for the people that have held season tickets. Maybe they've canceled, have let them go. So that's what I mean, is there's so much interest. There's hundreds of new requests. There's an equal amount, if not greater amount, of requests of previous season ticket holders. There's just been, a significant increase in terms of, season tickets and becoming season ticket holders. And I think it'll be important for Utah to capitalize on that, not just in the sense of providing the season tickets, but keeping the season ticket holders and keeping their interest. And that's going to be important for, Alex Jensen, obviously, to provide a good product. And again, with the coach that I believe he is, I think Utah fans are going to get that. I think we're going to get a good product on the floor. But even more than that, I think it's the athletic department truly investing in the program and all of that, and really turning this into, just what it used to be with, a packed Huntsman and just the vibes are tremendous all around. So this is, again, I've said it probably 6 times, but this is an exciting hire, and yet I think it's important to keep in mind that this is just the beginning of turning this ship around. You can't allow this to feel like this is it. Like, we've got our guy, we can kick our feet up, and we're at the finish line. This is just the beginning. Now it's up to Utah to continue to invest into the program. It's up to fans to show up, which they've done an increasingly good job of over the last few years, of showing up to games. But still, there's so much more to be done in returning Utah to its glory, to its what it can be. And that's going to take a totally collective effort from the athletic department, from Jensen and his basketball program, and from the fan base. It's going to take everybody. So, there's a lot of excitement, but we've got to remember that this is just the starting line for the future of Utah basketball. So, this is great. And so with Jensen, in place, we all kind of anxiously await what's next. And what we're all anxiously awaiting is Andre Miller. And so I'll start by just saying I think we need to be patient with it. Everything I've gathered suggests that this is going to come to fruition, but just need to allow it to happen in its own time. I don't know that it's done officially, but it sounds at the very least to be close to it. And I think, with bringing Jensen in, the opportunity to potentially bring Jensen and Miller back to the program, it isn't just a home run. It's not even a grand slam. This is a whole damn innings worth, a whole lineup's worth of dingers, of home runs. I can't wrap my head around it. The opportunity to bring back, 2 absolute legends in the program at the same time, and for each of them to have really kind of embraced what it means to be a coach. Jensen obviously has been at it much longer than Andre has. But if you know anything about Andre Miller, you know that he's a brilliant mind. And you know that coaching in basketball and it's all just in his blood. And so, it's super exciting to think of what those two can become. And with Miller, there is a staff beyond just those two, and it's going to be important for Jensen to fill out the rest of his staff in a pretty timely manner. I don't have any sort of feel as to how quickly things will come together, but what I have gathered is that there will be some NBA influence with Jensen's staff. I think Jensen would like to bring one, probably two people with him from his NBA ties that could either be an assistant, could play a general manager role, could fill that role, and then you add Miller to the mix, Andre Miller to the mix, and how is the rest of the staff going to look like? I don't know. I don't know beyond that, but I do think Jensen will bring a couple guys with him from the NBA. Just based on what I've heard so far, I don't have names or an idea of who they could be, but I have heard that Jensen would like to bring at least a couple guys with him. So we'll see what else unfolds with his staff. In terms of the current staff members, I think it would make a lot of sense, given their recruiting ties, for Jensen to hang on to David Evans and Lo Leith. I think those guys do have genuinely good recruiting connections and relationships that will be valuable for Utah to hang on to as Jensen gets his feet under him at this level and establishes those relationships for himself. Evans is very well connected within the state and beyond. I know he's connected internationally. And then with Lo Leith, it's important to keep in mind that he came from an Oakland Soldiers program that has multiple chapters, teams essentially, throughout California. So he basically oversaw an AAU program that had multiple teams from multiple areas of fertile recruiting grounds. And then beyond that, too, the guys moving out that have graduated from the program essentially and have gone on to the league have created a lot of their own AAU teams. Lo Leith has connections even beyond his Oakland Soldiers program. So, I think that, again, it would make a lot of sense for Jensen to hang on to those two. And then with Eilert, he's been tremendous. In the eyes of the administration, to step up into this situation and to become a leader of the men in the program currently. And I think, even for Jensen, it would make sense to hang on to him. Given his background in the Big 12, you could find a role for him, certainly, and you can find a role for everybody. I think it's important to keep in mind, there are 5 assistant spots that Jensen can have, of coaches, assistants that can, coach and instruct on the floor in practice, right? So you've got 5, and then 3 are designated as recruiters, essentially, guys that can go out and recruit. So he's got some wiggle room in terms of how he wants to piece his staff together. And then beyond that, too, there's other roles that will need to be filled as well, director of operations, those sorts of roles. So we'll see what happens with that. But certainly I think Jensen will need to move fairly quickly in terms of putting together his staff and getting it together soon. I think because of what's to come in the coming weeks. And we've already seen 2 players actually enter the transfer portal. So I think it'll be important. Obviously, it'll be important for Utah, for Jensen to have a staff in place that can handle things while he's finishing up, the season with the Dallas Mavericks. And I think having Andre Miller in place could be key to that. He can be the sort of tip of the spear for Utah as they will need to get into recruiting players and evaluating players, if you have if you have somebody like Andre Miller, who can be that sort of personality to welcome players into the program, I think that would be significant. So again, we got to be patient, but I do think there has to be a sense of urgency for Jensen to get this done, because Utah currently has a 30-day window open that opened when Craig Smith was let go. And we've seen Jake Wallin and Brandon Haddock announce their intentions to enter the portal. I think there's a strong likelihood that we see most, if not all. I lean more towards most. I don't think every player will enter the portal, but I think there's a chance that we could. And I think it's important to understand that these players will be entering the portal essentially to confirm their value, learn their value, and confirm it, and to go into the portal, gauge the interest, gauge what sort of market they have in terms of their own NIL value, and I think most will do so with the intentions of negotiating with Utah to secure a deal and return to Utah. I think some players will do that. I think some players will enter the portal with new destinations in mind as well. And so, we'll see what comes. And I think, it's important to understand that Jensen may not necessarily want to keep everybody, on this roster. So there will certainly be a lot of leeway with how we need to react to, guys that enter the portal. Not every decision will be the player's decision. And so we'll see. But yeah, with that, I've been led to believe that, two guys, Keanu Dawes and Jake Wallin, are really big priorities for Utah and for Jensen specifically. I've heard that Mike and Miro would also love the opportunity to return, and then beyond that, there are other guys that I'm sure want to return as well. But there are also others that may be looking to leave, and I think a guy like Ezra Sarr is somebody that I think fans need to prepare for in that sense. He's played really well for Utah, and there's going to be a great deal of interest in him from programs back east where he calls home, and his kids spend time live in Atlanta, and so that can be difficult for him. And I think it's super likely that he's going to enter the portal and end up somewhere else. So we'll see what happens, but obviously lots to come on that front with Utah basketball. So getting back to the formal introduction, I think that's a big moment. I think once that's done, which again is Monday at 6 p.m. at the John N. Huntsman Center, and I hope again that fans show up to that and really make it an event for Utah and for the Jensens. And then beyond that, once we get past that, I think that's when we may start to see the additional staff moves announced over the course of time. I don't think it's going to be a flurry of announcements, but I do think it makes sense for Utah to try and wrap up the deal with Andre Miller and get that announced shortly after Jensen's press conference. Not immediately after. I'm not saying Monday night, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, something along those lines, and have him in place. And both of these guys, I think Dre has a couple more games left as the G League coach. I don't know how committed he is to finishing out the season or what that could mean. I don't know, but we'll see. But with that, as Jensen needs to finalize his staff, and as Utah starts to get into recruiting mode, there's still the opportunity for Utah men's basketball to play in postseason basketball. There's a new tournament that Fox has put together in Las Vegas that incorporates the Big Ten, the Big East, and the Big 12, and each of those three conferences will have two automatic qualifiers and then maybe an at-large bid as well. And I think Utah is very close to having that auto bid for the Big 12. I think actually they should be in line to get that auto bid. So we'll see what happens there. That will happen at the end of the month, and from like March 31st to April 5th, I believe it is. So we'll see what that looks like. Jake Wallin mentioned in his transfer portal announcement that, while he's entering the portal, he is doing so while committing to postseason play with Utah. So, pretty cool of him, and we'll see what happens there. But as Utah, once we get past that and as we get into, transfer portal recruiting, I do think, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive Utah is in putting this team together. There was an article published yesterday by On3 that quoted an anonymous ACC source that essentially said, quote, a top 25 team is going to cost $6 million next season, end quote. And I think Utah, I firmly believe Utah is going to be above that number. I think Utah is going to have some increased NIL to work with based on what's been reported. We know that Utah was working with about $2 to $2.5 million this season, and I think it's very likely that Utah is going to nearly double that NIL number, if not double it. And then beyond that, it's important to keep in mind that revenue sharing will be added in the coming months. So essentially, with the increased NIL and with rev share coming, I think Utah is going to be land somewhere between 6 to 9 million in terms of the resources that they'll have to capitalize on their recruiting efforts. And so, where does that stack up? In terms of the doubling from 2 million or 2.5 million to 4 to 4 to from doubling 2 to 2.5 million and getting to 4 or 5 million in terms of just strictly NIL, that would land Utah closer to the upper half of the Big 12. I think that's pretty significant. Obviously, you've got Kansas and you've got BYU that are the top spenders in the league, and those programs are putting in a significant amount of money in their NIL. But, Kansas, Baylor, Texas Tech, these are all programs that were right around 4 to 5 million. So, you get on that level and then you incorporate the rev share, which I think will get Utah pretty close to that 9 million. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens over the coming months, but that's just based on what I've heard. We'll see what it actually ends up being. But yeah, I think Utah's going to be much better equipped to go into the portal and recruit the sort of talent that they need. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Let's switch gears onto the Huntsman Center. Utah announced this week their future plans for the university's, a new arena in a new location is part of why it was so important for Alex to be the guy. Talked about it on the previous episode that, the Huntsman Center was it only had so much longer to go. It didn't have much longer to go in terms of its lifespan, and it seems that Utah thinks that as well and is pretty close to moving forward with plans, I think. And so we'll see what comes. But I think, again, this was so important in terms of bringing on Alex because of what he means for the fan base and for supporters of the university, and the fundraising that's going to come with Alex, at the helm, having that connection to those glory days under Rick Majerus, while having somebody that people believe in to lead them into the future, is just the perfect way to bring about a new arena in a new location. Because the Huntsman Center, it is a storied venue. It is home to a lot of great memories. It is a place where a lot of us that have grown up as Utah fans, we've got a lot of memories as kids in that arena. Adults long timers that have been around for a long time have many more memories. There is just so much sentimental value in that arena that it's going to be tough to say goodbye. But I think in terms of its practical use, it's become outdated. It's behind the times, and for the student athletes of the future, I think it's important to for them to have an arena that has all the amenities for them, but also for the fans too. Because there's just isn't a lot of options for seating, for concessions, and I think just it makes so much sense rather than completely renovating the Huntsman Center. Building a new arena in a new location, perhaps. Including with that an entertainment district around the new arena would be of significant, would provide significant opportunity and potential for the program to really improve, in terms of their revenue streams, in terms of accessibility to the arena, in terms of visibility with the new arena, and perhaps opportunities with that in terms of hosting tournaments and all of that sort of. There's just so much potential with a new arena and with a potential entertainment district around it that I think it makes a lot of sense to pursue it. And so with the new arena, obviously the location will be key, and that's part of what today's announcement was highlighting that we're looking into this. We're assessing our options, and I think, I think moving it closer to Guardsman Way is a big priority for Utah. I think they want to house everything close together. So you've got Guardsman Way with the practice facility, the tennis courts, the golf facility, baseball moving there. You've got Rice-Eccles Stadium in, kitty corner essentially from Guardsman Way. Potentially moving the arena there makes just a ton of sense. And obviously it's going to require a drastic makeover of wherever they elect to go. And this is going to be a significant investment. But with the Olympics coming in 2034, I do think that Utah is looking at this as an opportunity to really maximize what this could be. So, I've talked a lot about it being an entertainment district, and though that wasn't mentioned in today's announcement in any sort of way, I do think it is something that Utah will be interested in potentially pursuing. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. This is a long ways away, but we'll eventually learn what Utah has planned with the new arena moving forward. So, I think, just a lot to unpack with the Huntsman, and like I said earlier, we'll do that over time, and really allow that to set in. That it's coming to an end. A great run with the Huntsman Center is coming to an end, but ultimately, I do think this is for the best. Not just for the basketball programs for the men's and women's, but also for gymnastics. It's going to be for their betterment and also for the fans. I do think that this will be a significant upgrade with the new arena and what it could mean for the fans that want to attend the games and all that. But a long ways to go, obviously, with that. I don't think we'll see any sort of movement on this again for at least 2 to 3 years. Maybe we see an announcement in terms of where things might what sort of location they're thinking, and that sort of stuff. But in terms of the where Utah basketball, where they're going to continue playing, where the Red Rocks are going to continue competing, that's going to continue for the next 2 to 3 years. I think we'll continue to utilize the Huntsman pretty just like we have been. Nothing's going to change for at least a few years. So I think again, getting back to everything with the basketball program, a lot of excitement around the program with the hiring of Jensen and the potential of adding Andre Miller. I think there is just again, a lot of excitement around it all, and I hope that Utah capitalizes on it and moves forward into the future with a completely reinvigorated fan base and all that. It's been a lot of fun getting into the Big 12 and getting into, just how competitive this league is in basketball. It's been tough, with this season, but I think Utah is motivated to get this basketball program back to a storied place, back to a respected place. And, just talking to people around the program, I get that sense that there is genuine commitment into getting this program back to where many want it to be. So it's exciting. A lot of things still to come, a lot of things still to learn. Plenty of movement still to come in terms of staff additions, in terms of transfer portal recruiting. Just a lot to look forward to with Utah basketball, which is exciting. All right, let's switch gears again. Spring ball starts next Thursday. How crazy is that? Man, that's crazy. That flew by. I swear they just announced it a few weeks ago when that was going to get going. So Utah will begin spring ball next Thursday, March 20th, and they'll have 5 weeks straight of spring practice. And with the media, we'll have opportunities to go up every Tuesday and watch 20 minutes of practice. We'll have the opportunity to speak with Kyle Whittingham every Tuesday, and then on Thursdays we'll get to talk to defensive players and have some media availability there. I think just defense. I think offense is Tuesday, and then defense is Thursday, and then the first week of a spring camp, that first Friday, so Thursday, Friday, we'll get the opportunity to speak with the assistant coaches for the first time this year. So that'll give us the opportunity to talk to Jason Beck, to Mark Atuaya, Micah Simon, all the other coaches on staff, and get to hear from them for the first time in 2025, outside of Kyle, Beck, and Scally, who talked to us back in January. But yeah, it's always exciting to have spring ball. We're all looking forward to it this year with just how much turnover there's been, with the coaching changes that have been made. It's been a difficult 2 seasons for Utah fans. Things have not gone according to plan whatsoever. It's been a frustrating ordeal. I think a lot of fans, you could tell there's a bit of exhaustion with the way that things have gone. But I think, this group, there's just a different vibe. There's a fun culture to it again, to Utah football again, and I think that has been something that's been missing. It's been so businesslike. It's been so it's been just a grind, it's felt like. And while the Dorian Singer news, while it sucks and it kind of continues to point back to that frustrating feeling, I do think that this group, that there's just a new vibe around the team. When you bring in a new leader on the field at quarterback in Devin Dampier, you can tell that he's a joy to be around, that he's a fun guy, that he's always smiling, and he just seems to be a charismatic type of kid. And from talking to people that have interacted with him, that is absolutely the case. And so, there's I think it'll be interesting this spring ball to kind of get to know all of the new faces, and Devin Dampier in particular. But some things that I'll be paying close attention to this spring, I think first and foremost is that wide receiver group. I think Utah has a pretty good feel for what they have. At most other positions. Obviously, there are other positions that I'll highlight here, but I think for the majority of the roster, they have a pretty good sense of who are going to be the guys that we can count on, and who are the guys that we feel optimistic can step up. At receiver, it's completely new almost. Outside of guys like Zacharias Williams, Dadrian Zipper, and Luca Colorello, guys that got reps this past season, there's not a lot else that Utah is bringing back where you can say, hey, this and this guy can be that, and that guy can be this. they've got a lot to figure out with that group. And so when you bring it, they've brought in 4 transfers. They've also brought in a true freshman early enrollee, and there's a lot to learn about this group. So that's going to be the group that I pay the most attention to, and both in terms of our media availability and what we can watch, but then also just the storylines and the talking points. That's going to be where I focus a lot on. Beyond that wide receiver group, I think the next biggest question mark on the roster is probably defensive tackle. Utah brings back Aliki Vamahi, who it's great to have him back, to have his senior leadership on the roster, to have a veteran like him leading the way, I think is big, especially for that group in particular, with the mindset that they play with in that room. I think he embodies the culture of that defensive tackle room better than just about anybody else that's been in that room, in recent years. Outside of Junior Tafuna, I think Aliki Vamahi, he's a quiet dude, but man, he really is just really well suited in that defensive tackle room for Utah. Beyond him, though, there's some question marks, and there's a lot of optimism around Dallas Vakalahi. He flashed some really exciting potential in year 1 this past season. He's going to have to make some strides in his game. What sort of development does he make this offseason in terms of both his physical maturation, but then too his technical improvement? How much better can he get? And beyond him, we don't really know what Utah has in that room. Jonah Leah is making the move from defensive end to defensive tackle. He's trying to bulk up and get to about 285 pounds and be more of that athletic type, a Filippo Mokofisi type from a few years ago. Man, that was almost a decade ago. That's insane. And then beyond that, you've got two early enrollees, 2 freshmen in Carson Kafusi and Shioni Matuapaka, who could be counted on to play roles this fall. So, where are they at in their game, and what sort of contributions can they make? We'll get a feel for what they can provide this unit. But I think this is going to be a pretty important group for Utah to figure out this spring and to get some genuine development. And then too, there's a couple guys that have been walk-ons, Jory Benson and Mateole. I'm blanking on his first name, but Mateole, could they potentially emerge as options for Utah? We'll see. I know Jory Benson is a guy that he's athletic. He's a hooper. So we'll see. There's a lot to learn about this defensive tackle room. And then too, on that defense side of the ball, cornerback, Smith Snowden taking on CB1 duties. What does the rest of that group look like? They've brought in a lot of size, a lot of length, with Donovan Saunders and Blake Cotton and Jeremiah Caldwell. Just what does that look like on the field? I'm excited to get a feel for what those guys can bring to the table, what sort of progress Smith Snowden has made. This is year 3 for him, and this is typically when guys start to put it together, all together. We saw the flashes, the playmaking flashes for him, from him this past season in terms of the interceptions. He had 2 of the most impressive interceptions that I've seen in quite some time, wrestling away from the Utah State receiver up in Logan, and then too that interception against UCF. Just the mental recognition to see it and go get it was super impressive. And then too that running back room. I'm excited about this room with Wayshawn Parker and Aquari Rogers and Devin Green and Daniel Bray. I'm excited to get a feel for what those guys can be in this Jason Beck offense. There's a lot of it's obviously big on the run game with Devin Dampier, but there's a lot of different looks and a lot of different there's variety in the running game, which is something that we haven't had a lot of at Utah over the last couple seasons. So just getting a better feel for the offense and the run game in particular will be a lot of fun. So just some quick thoughts on spring ball. Like I said, we'll be up there every Tuesday and Thursday most weeks, and then every week, Tuesday, Thursday. And then week 1, we get the assistant coaches on Friday, as well as week 5. We get the assistant coaches again just prior to the spring game. So it'll be a lot of fun to get up there and watch some spring ball and talk to the team, get to know the team a little bit. So that'll do it for me. This is the Utah Blockcast signing off.